We had Global Exhibitions Day on June 2nd, and here in the US, we promoted that under the Exhibitions and Conferences Alliance as the Legislative Action Day, our first fly-in, virtual fly-in, unfortunately. We had to do it online.
Sure.
But this was a continuation of the Exhibitions Day advocacy efforts that IE had started many years ago, and is now taken over by the Exhibitions and Conferences Alliance, which is run jointly by SISO and IAEE, with David Dubois and myself serving as co-presidents of that group. The main focus of that advocacy work on June 2nd was to help promote the proposed Hospitality Commerce Jobs Recovery Act. It's a wide act for stimulus and support of many sectors, but it does provide for some excellent tax credits for attendees and exhibitors to participate in events. So it now has, I think, 86 co-sponsors from Congress, with a number of senators as well. And we're quite hopeful that will continue to get more co-sponsors and actually hopefully come for discussion and votes this summer at some point. We also continue to do our case studies, our in-depth case studies. We were at the World of Concrete in Las Vegas a week or so ago, and Informa had a tremendously successful event there. We were wonderful to see it. The Las Vegas Convention Center opened its new West Hall building for the first time for that event. It was great to see it. I personally hadn't seen the building since it started construction, so it was wonderful to see it already finished. And there was a lot of industry folks there. We had a roundtable discussion put on by MDG and Freeman and hosted by the Las Vegas Convention Visitors Authority. And it was great just to be in person. No masks required for those of us that were vaccinated. Pretty much anywhere in Vegas. Once you got out of the airport, the hotels were allowing no masks for vaccinated people, the convention center, the restaurants, the city in general. So it really did feel like getting back to normal.
$36,000, 734.
Wow, amazing.
It's amazing.
Yeah, you blew past both your goals. I mean, I don't think there's words for the effort here, Doug. I think I speak for everyone here.
Amazing. Just an astronomical amount of money that's going to help so many people. So you should be so incredibly proud of what you've achieved.
No, it's been an incredible effort by everybody. Everybody has really pulled together. It's been phenomenal. For me, it's got a little bit hot here, so it's been a bit of a challenge the last couple, but one to do.
The domestic shows. So when I say the domestic shows, those that don't have a huge international component to them, because obviously the travel restrictions getting into the US are you have to quarantine and so on. But we've just actually had a rebudgeting meeting, and that going through that process, it was really good because I could see all these events that are in the US market will take place this year. Maybe not exactly how they used to look, but they will take place. And that's really important to get not just the companies and the exhibitors and the attendees back into attending events, but also for our staff, that they can see light at the end of the tunnel, as it were, and get back to what we do best. So Seafood Expo North America, which would take place in Boston, was scheduled to take place in July. Boston hadn't reopened, so that actually seemed too soon to organize an event. So we're back on the normal schedule for March of next year. And the same for Seafood Expo Global, which will launch relaunch in Barcelona next April. All those events are looking very strong, even as we, the further out we go, of course. But we're pretty excited about the fact that we think we can run absolutely everything that's domestic by the end of the year.
One of the exciting things that was new in 2021 is Governor Steve Sisolak was on site to welcome World of Concrete and open the new building, because in 2020, the direct economic impact from the event was 59.6 million and 103 million in indirect economic impact. And he was excited to reopen the convention and trade show business for the state of Nevada, because traditionally Las Vegas is the #1 destination for conventions in the US. And it represents an economic impact of 11.4 billion to the area in a typical year when there's the regular amount of shows in the state of Nevada. West Hall was open for the first time at the Las Vegas Convention Center. This was a brand new building. It is a $1 billion building with 1.4 million square feet of exhibit space. It has a big exhibit hall and meeting space. There's a rooftop area, a beautiful building with all windows on the front, 3-story screen right when you walk in to the building. So it really made a statement. And this was the first event in that new building. Another really exciting and interesting thing was the Boring Company opened the Loop officially at World of Concrete. It was a $52.5 million project, and it was all constructed 40 feet below the convention center. They built tunnels. They have one-way tunnels going through underneath the convention center, connecting the West Hall with the North and Central Halls, South Hall as well. So it's all underground. It can move about 4,400 attendees per hour to the 3 stations, and it really held up. The other day I saw a report in the Las Vegas Review Journal that's where the numbers were at. There were never any lines. There was a lot of excitement generated around that people mover. In terms of the health and safety measures on site, this was the first show. There were no masks required, even though they got approvals about 60 days out for the show. Really, everything was lifted on June 1. So they were not required to socially distance, have masks. Some of the things they kept in place in terms of the wider aisles and the no carpeting. They tried to make things as contactless as possible with things like digital badges. Really, the big thing was the fact that there were no masks required for fully vaccinated attendees and exhibitors. How is the on-site testing process working?
When we put this together, it had never been, as far as we know, attempted on a scale quite as large as this. In a country, early in the pandemic, testing was a bit variable, mm-hmm. at least where you and I come from. Mm-hmm. It's fairly automated now. So what we had to do is we had to figure out how to replicate something that has quality, control, and confidence. And we interacted very closely, developed our processes in conjunction with our health partner, Cadon, mm-hmm. as well as the authorities. And the health authorities guided us, and I think I haven't heard one complaint about the process. It's very it sounds complicated. It's actually quite simple, and it's a time and motion study. It's mm-hmm. the ability to move people effectively and efficiently, through a medical procedure, mm-hmm. if you will, and then more importantly to allow the health authorities to take over if something is determined to be outside of the normal range.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about how do you market an event during a pandemic?
Well, I think it's really been first a story of communications before marketing, right? I mean, after the cancellation, being open, transparent, and with the world so interested in MWC and what would be the future, our attendees, the exhibitors, the people of Barcelona, Catalonia, Spain, the world. It was first off setting afoot, our communications, and we then jumped into what are we going to do for the rest of the year? And if you follow anything about the SMA, we had some really tough challenges with the cancellation of MWC.
Yes.
And so I found myself both having to navigate those challenges and looking at this kind of transformation plan that I was doing, which is pretty bold, from what I had, a lot of changes. It's I'm a bit known in, you know, for coming in and looking, shaking things up a little bit. But I decided to continue on that path, and in that process, because you're asking about marketing, we in-housed our brand and contact function. We just had one person doing brand, but we in-housed more specialist skills, and I think that comes through in the visuals and we're able to turn a lot of assets out as well, which was necessary for the online events as well.
Sure.
I attend the SISO Leadership Conference because it's a fantastic place to learn more about how the industry is developing and connect with the people that are making those changes.
We've got the people who are leading the events day to day, and for that we put on content that's focused to help them in their job, whether that's on sales, on marketing, on operations. Anybody who is anybody in the industry comes to SISO, whether it's the US, which is 70% of the people, or international.
The people who come here are people, the real people who are doing the jobs, the leadership of sales in companies, the leadership in operations and marketing.
The people you meet here are like-minded, and so to be in an environment where you're surrounded by people who understand your struggles and what you're striving to achieve is really empowering. And I always come back from a SISO meeting with a lot of enthusiasm.
It offers the very tactical day-to-day education that we need for my teams to help them do their jobs.